You're watching the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Jay Senior, coming your way on today's show of 49ers News and Rumors Mailbag because we love interacting with the faithful, love interacting with the Niner Empire, and answering all of your 49ers-related questions. So without further ado, let's kick off this mailbag with this question coming in from Chu Allure. Should the Niners draft North Dakota State wide receiver Christian Watson? So you didn't list his name, but I believe you're talking about Christian Watson because he's a really good wide receiver who continues to climb up draft boards. And he was looked at early in the draft process as a second or third round guy. There's been some buzz behind Christian Watson, maybe even sneaking into the back end of that first round. Why is that? He's got good size, 6'4", 6'5". At the NFL Combine, he ran a 4.3, low 4.4. He played his college football with Trey Lance, so there's that level of familiarity there. And the way that I read things, with all of the latest NFL draft buzz, I don't think he's going to be available at pick number 61. I think people look at a prospect like that and they're like, okay, he played at North Dakota State, but he can run with that speed. He can also go up and get the football. He can line up outside. He can line up inside and run a variety of routes. So as of right now, my read, I think you might have to trade up to take Christian Watson. And the Niners, they haven't really been aggressive in previous NFL drafts outside of trading up for Trey Lance. I think they stay put at number 61, and I think they miss out on Christian Watson. That's my prediction. Niner faithful with this. Hey, Chase, I don't see Christian Watson falling to us anymore, but I'm predicting we draft Arnold Ebiketie at 61 to line up opposite of Nick Bosa, then Marcus Jones or Cole Strange. Next thoughts. So look, like the common theme here is Ebiketie, defensive lineman, then maybe offensive line. Marcus Jones might be in that conversation as well. Like a couple of position groups that I think the Niners are really going to hone in on. It's going to be wide receiver in no particular order, by the way. Wide receiver, secondary, offensive line, and defensive line, primarily edge rusher, which is where Arnold really factors in here. So I think those are the position groups that the Niners are really going to hone in on, and I think that's really their focus. I mean, they've been able to address some of that so far in NFL free agency, but I think they're looking to fulfill the rest of their needs throughout the NFL draft. BK from the Bay, do you think they cut Jimmy Garoppolo before camp? Man, I don't know. Like, the read on Jimmy Garoppolo is so difficult to predict, right? Because everybody thought that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to get dealt. And then he didn't. And then he didn't. And then there was all this quarterback movement. And now Jimmy Garoppolo is still on this damn roster carrying a cap hit of about $26 million. And that's problematic with trying to build out the rest of your team. Now, the good thing for San Francisco, they made it to the Final Four last year. They have premier players on both sides of the football. I think they're well positioned to compete for a Super Bowl and the NFC crown once again. But just imagine, if you let go of Jimmy Garoppolo, if you cut him, if you trade him, that frees up so much money to sign some big-ticket free agents. Now, obviously, that window is passed. So, do you allocate that money for a Deebo Samuel contract extension, as well as a Nick Bosa contract extension? That's more figuring into the future as compared to right now. But I just think the Niners are going to wait to see if Jimmy Garoppolo can prove that he's healthy, to see if he can get healthy coming off that shoulder injury. Then they try to trade him. Last resort, they cut him because they really, really want something back in exchange for Garoppolo. Now, I've talked about the Niners and their current state of the roster and the fact that I think they can compete for the NFC crown and maybe the Super Bowl here in 2022. Do you think the Niners can win the NFC this upcoming season? Give me your all too early predictions because we love predictions here on the channel because they're fun and we like to have fun here on the channel. Type W for yes, they can win the conference. L for nah, they're going to lose it. They can't compete. You let me know down below. Rah-rah. What did you think about bringing back Adrian Colbert for special teams? I mean, a big focus for San Francisco, and I don't really have thoughts on him, but a big focus for San Francisco is that they have focused in on special teams, whether that be coverage, whether that be returners and bringing in Ray McCloud. They were one of the worst special teams units in the NFL last year, and they had to get better. And that's why they let go of Richard Hightower, formerly the special teams coach who now latched on with the Chicago Bears. They got gashed so many times last year with their special teams units, and that flips the football field, that gives other teams good field position, and it really can change the momentum of a football game. So I like the fact that they've built up their special teams units because they certainly have to be better this upcoming year as compared to last year. A player like George Odom, you sign him, a former All-Pro special teams player who didn't miss a single tackle last year. Like those types of moves on the peripheries of the roster, that's what championship teams have to do. Hanif Razak, one of our loyal subscribers, what are the possibilities that the Niners trade Jimmy Garoppolo at the NFL trade deadline? Maybe that happens, but I think it'd be extremely rare to see a quarterback dealt at the NFL trade deadline because it's so late in the year to try to trade for an impact player. Like the Carolina Panthers, when they signed Cam Newton last year, it came as a big surprise. They were right on the cusp of competing for a playoff spot. They got off to that hot start to start off the 2021 campaign, and Sam Darnold clearly wasn't it. He was also injured, so they signed Cam Newton in hopes that he was going to be able to basically go back to the form of MVP Cam Newton from 2015, and we know how that ended. But to trade for a quarterback that late in the process, it's extremely rare. So I think they'd wait a little bit too long to trade Garoppolo, and I also think that if a team were to trade for Garoppolo at that point, how good are they? And if they trade for Garoppolo, he's on the final year of his contract. So you're getting a starting quarterback for basically half of a season. I don't think that happens. I think they either cut him before that point. Jason Lutz, when are we getting Bosa some legitimate help? I mean, they had it last year, right? With Arden Key, 6.5 sacks. Charles Omenihu, Samson Ebukam, Eric Armstead. Like, those are really good complementary pieces. I'm still a believer that Javon Kinlaw can have a really good year coming off that torn ACL. You bring back Kerry Hyder. You sign Hassan Ridgeway. You have some other good depth pieces on that defensive line. You brought back Jordan Willis. Last year, he had legitimate help because Samson Ebukam had like 4.5 sacks. Arden Key had 6.5 sacks. Like, if you can get that level of production from rotational pass rushers, that's getting help for Nick Bosa, and he had 15.5 sacks just in the regular season and added a bunch in the NFL playoffs. NFL Draft is coming your way April 28th to the 30th, and our coverage here at Chat Sports is going to be absolutely awesome. On the 49ers Report, as we break down NFL Draft rumors, as well as all of the selections that the Niners make, but also on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, we will be going live for all 3 days, all 7 rounds, every single selection. So if you're excited for the NFL Draft, type LFG. And for our NFL Draft coverage, we'll be pushing out videos on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, on the 49ers Report, on YouTube, but also on Rumble. And how about this competition that we have going on within the walls here at Chat Sports between myself, Harrison Graham, who's the host of Chicago Bears Now in the 49ers Report. Right now, Bears are sitting at 420 subs. Now, those of you living in California, you like that 420 number. I like it too, but I also want to catch up to Bears Now in terms of subscribers on Rumble. So we have some work to do. Head to rumble.com/49erstv and subscribe to us on Rumble for more exclusive content that you can't find here on YouTube. Wet Noodle 187, hope you're hanging in there after that car wreck, my man. Is Banks going to be ready to play this year? I'm very worried about our guards more than our tackles. I am too, and I'm worried about this offensive line. I think it's going to be an area of need that they do address at some point in the NFL Draft. I mean, they need to bulk up that offensive line because the depth along the O-line isn't all that good. They need Aaron Banks to pay off. That selection of second-round pick for Aaron Banks, if he doesn't work out, that's very problematic for the Niners this upcoming season because they need him to give the Niners really good play along that offensive line. And if he's a bust, that takes a starting option away, it takes a depth option away, and you waste a second-round pick. So, look, he's going to get opportunities and ample opportunities to play either both guard spots, right guard or left guard, because those are positions that are currently open right now. I'm a believer in the player. I thought it was a weird scheme fit from the get-go. I warmed up to it over time, and then in the preseason, he was getting beat a lot. He was also injured, though, so you have to factor that into the equation. Hopefully he's ready to play. I think he's going to be ready to play. Brian, you could trade Mike and Jimmy for DK Metcalf. Mike McGlinchey you're talking about? Yeah, I mean, the Seattle Seahawks, they certainly have some needs along that offensive line. That's been no secret. That's a big reason why Russell Wilson got very, very frustrated with things in Seattle because he was one of the most off-hit quarterbacks in the NFL. But Mike McGlinchey and Jimmy Garoppolo for one of the best wide receivers in the NFL and DK Metcalf, that's not going to move the needle for Seattle. I mean, they're going to want draft capital. They're going to want more impact players in exchange for DK Metcalf, who's a straight-up freak. So I don't think that would get it done for DK Metcalf. But if the Seattle Seahawks said yes to Mike McGlinchey and Jimmy Garoppolo for DK Metcalf, I'm saying yes all 7 days of the week. Make sure you give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. I stay tweeting out the latest 49ers news and rumors, clips from the show, and love interacting with the Niner gang, with the faithful, and with the Niner Empire. So you can give me a follow at Chase_Senior. Love interacting with all of the Niner gang. I made it easy for all of you. It's the same handle on both social media platforms. Be sure to hit me up. Nicole and Harold Gillenwater, do you think Dillard would be cheap? And do you want us to resign Jaquiski Tartt? At this point, why not sign Jaquiski Tartt and bring him back to the Bay? I thought he was really good, had the best year of his career in 2021. Everybody wants to focus in on that dropped interception in the NFC Championship game against the Rams. He should have made the play. It could have changed the game. There's no doubt about it, but he's a good player. As for Andre Dillard, look, he hasn't played enough to really demand all that much money. So I think you could be able to get him for a pretty affordable price. You'd have to convince him, though, to go over to right tackle, and really he's only played left tackle, but obviously that position is occupied by the great Trent Williams. Jonathan Lamont, I think they could go with Cameron Thomas, defensive end from San Diego State, to go opposite of Bosa. Your thoughts? Yeah, so we actually talked about Cameron Thomas back, I think, last week on the Niners Report when we did a little mock draft, and he's a good player. He has pretty good size. I would say he's like a Nick Bosa light. He's not like freaky athletic like Nick Bosa or twitchy like Nick Bosa, but he has that size, like 6'4", 275 pounds. Good player for San Diego State this past year. The sack production was pretty solid. If he's available in the second round, I probably wouldn't hate that pick. Little dude, final question in this sack. Only one team left that would trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. It's the Carolina Panthers. But if Deshaun Watson gets suspended, the Browns could be a sleeper. It's a very good thought. It's a very good take. But the Cleveland Browns did sign Jacoby Brissett. So I think they signed him knowing that, hey, if Deshaun Watson isn't cleared, or if he's on the commissioner's exempt list and he does get suspended, we have a good backup in Jacoby Brissett, who's one, cheaper than Jimmy Garoppolo, and has started a lot of games in the NFL over the last couple of years with a bunch of teams. Indianapolis Colts, as well as the Miami Dolphins. So New England Patriots as well. So I think there could be a scenario in which maybe that makes sense. But yeah, you're looking at the only two quarterback destinations for Jimmy Garoppolo. It's Carolina and it's Seattle. And I kind of cross off Seattle because it's an interdivision team. But that is an interesting thought there, little dude. Appreciate that. Last question here on this mailbag. How many games will the Niners win in 2022? Remember, it's a 17-game schedule. So I think the Niners going to be in that similar trajectory of where they were last year. I'm going to say 9, 10, 11 games, and I think that'll be good enough to get back into the NFL playoffs. And I think this offense is going to be better with Trey Lance. Take a guess, though, and you let me know.